Right, we're live. Hello and welcome to Grumpy Old Reds, where it is boiling hot right now and we are sweating away, but the show must go on. We're going to be talking about Jono, Iheanacho, striker sagas. We'll be talking about goalkeepers, financial fair play. There's a lot to cover off tonight. So strap in, get those fans on, and let's get into it. Good morning, good evening, everybody. I hope you are well. And here is our panel. We've got one more coming on in a little bit, but he's still at a barbecue. You all know Ez. Ez, how you doing, bud?
I'm really good, mate. How are you?
You're looking sharp, man. You're looking like the sun's doing you the world of good, mate. You're looking dark.
It doesn't feel like it.
It's absolutely boiling. And we've got a special guest on tonight. We've got Nick from End the Struggle on TikTok. His link will be in the chat, posted in there by our lovely mods. Nick, how you doing, buddy? You look like you're glowing a bit as well in the heat.
Yeah, so part-time TikToker, but I'm also a tennis coach. So I've been on the tennis court all day today since 10 o'clock this morning. So I'm nicely sunburnt as I sit here.
How could you do it, man? I used to play tennis as a kid, county level, may I add. Ooh. It's a bit of an exclusive club. I've got to be honest with you. I remember doing it as a kid and the posh BS that I used to get from certain coaches, shall we say. But that was many, many years ago. But it's a sport I do love, mate. Do you think it's still got legs in it in England? Do you think the kids still interested in all that stuff?
Yeah, I know what you're saying in terms of the boys' club. It's not as bad as it used to be. I mean, there are obviously still quite a few tennis clubs around that are fairly exclusive. But tennis is. When I started coaching 20 years ago, if I went into a primary school and asked a class of kids how many of them have played tennis before, you'd get 2 or 3 hands that went up. Yeah. I do it now, and every child's hand goes up. So the masses are starting to play it, but it's an expensive sport, so it's always going to be exclusive.
Absolutely. It was good to have you on, matey, as I changed to the wrong screen, but that will do. So I want to kick this off in chat. We got to start talking about Jono. I know we've talked about him a lot, but there's more and more movements on the story currently. When it started about 2 weeks ago, I was all laughy and jokey and saying it could never happen. But I'm starting to see reports that are just worrying me a little. And in specific, it's Villa that does get my ass itching a bit. But Nick, as our esteemed guest on today, what are your thoughts about Jono? Firstly, about the player himself. Do you think he is as hyped up as we all make out? And what are your thoughts about him staying or going to Forest?
Obviously, like all the Reds, I think he's a fantastic asset. I think he's done wonders in a very short space of time, and he did prove that he could step up to the Premier League. Now, I've seen Jono in his ups and downs. I've seen him, when people were calling for him to up and leave. I think it was Brentford when we were in the Championship, wasn't it? I think Brentford wanted to come in for him.
Yeah, they came in.
And then I think if I recall rightly, I was at the Fulham game at home, and we got absolutely tonked. And I think, if I remember rightly, I think the rumours were flying then, and there was a lot of people sitting around me that were saying, look, his heart's not in it, he's not trying anymore. But then after that, he's had a fantastic season. He's done really well. I don't personally think he will be going this one. I was saying to you guys earlier, I think if Cooper's got anything about him, he'll have sat Morgan Gibbs-White, Awoniyi and Johnson down and said, look, boys, you're Nottingham Forest 2023-24. We're going to build the team around you. The tactics are around you. I want as much input from you guys as possible. And I don't think Johnson's going to get that anywhere else. I don't think Gibbs-White would get that anywhere else. And I certainly don't think Awoniyi would. So I think we're safe this season.
But do you think that's his motivation, to play? Or do you think the motivation of, again, I'll use Villa as the example, with European football, because he has progressed quickly from season to season. If you take Forest out of the equation, he was playing League One, then Championship, then into the Premier League, did well at all 3 levels. And now in his, acceleration, is European the next stepping stone for him? Or do you think he may even think it's too soon?
I do think that the Jed Spence saga will be front and centre in any Nottingham Forest player's mind, and also a tool that Cooper can use. So if Johnson's going to Cooper and saying, look, I'm in two minds, he only needs to say Jed Spence. And I think we can all agree that was a disastrous move for Jed. He would have been much better off staying with us. He'd have played every game. He would have been one of those focal points for the team. And I'm sure he'd have had an absolutely fantastic season with us. So, yes, European football's a pull. Villa's only just down the road, so I don't think he would have to upend and leave everything behind. It's not a massive culture change like maybe moving down to London would be for him and the family. So I do get it. I get that. I just don't think it's gonna go. I don't think Marinakis will want to sell him for anything other than 55 million. Yeah. And I'm not sure he's worth that much money yet. If he has another season with us where he scores 10 plus, then yes, but I think this season's a step too far.
Yeah, what do you think, Ez? And just before you jump in, Ez, I've put in a poll. Do you think Johnson will go? Like, I just want to get where your mentality is, chat. Do you feel that there is a chance he will leave, or are you a resounding, there's no way he's going, be it the club won't sell him or he doesn't want to go? Get your votes in that. Currently, 54% of you are saying no, he's not going. Ez, what are your thoughts on this? I know we talked about it last week, but it's just developing slowly but surely now that they're back from the international break with Wales, etc.
Yeah. Nick made some great points there, and you've got to kind of look at it as well, because if Cooper has got anything about him, he would have certainly had those chats with that trio. Yeah, I would absolutely say that they're three of our most key players. They were this season, and you would think they would be going forward as well. Whoever we managed to bring in, you'd think they'd be the focal point of our attack, and certainly the players that Cooper needs to keep on board and keep on side. And the other thing is, maybe they can learn a lot from what happened to Jed Spence. And it's not, grass isn't always greener, but I think Jono's situation is a little bit different. And I do kind of agree. The fear that I have is with Aston Villa's interest in him, because I think that is something that could potentially turn his head. But I'll go back to what I said last week, that I think it's more about him getting a better contract. And he deserves a better contract out of this. If he's on what's
30K,
reported,
I believe,
30K a week, and we know other players are on triple that amount who haven't had that kind of anywhere near the contribution that Jono had last season. Then you got to be looking at, he's got to get a better contract. Whatever happens out of this, he's going to be given a new contract or an extension or whatever, or better terms. And from that point of view, I think the best thing about Jono last season is I still don't think we've seen the best of him. We're nowhere close to seeing the best of him, and he did progress, and he had his quiet moments. He had, I think, pre-World Cup was an issue for him. Post-World Cup was when he really hit his form for the season, and then he died off a little bit, didn't he? And Cooper was a bit more reticent to use him, but I think for the right reasons in terms of results that we needed to get over those final few games, and it worked, so that really doesn't matter. But what I'm excited about is what he can still do for us. And I think he's more valuable for us in the team rather than the money we'll get for him. And it was the same situation as Nick alluded to when Brentford came in for him. Do we keep him and try and get promotion, be serious about promotion, or do we cash in and try our luck? And we obviously made the right decision on that account. And I think another season is not going to do him any harm whatsoever. If he's valued at 55, 60 million now, imagine in a year's time, another season under his belt, more experience, hopefully an injury-free season and a real run in the team. And then we'll see what he's worth then. But I don't think it's anything about him going. I think it's about him getting a better contract. And I hope that's the best thing that comes out of this transfer window, because I still think we need him, certainly. And I think he can grow more here than he can do anywhere else, despite the interest from certain clubs.
Guys, we've got approaching, I think, 160 odd of you already in here, but only 33 likes. Please don't forget to hit the like button. We are, all three of us, I'm sure, are sweating behind the scenes here. So show us some love with a like, and please go follow Nick on TikTok if you're not already. End the struggle. Crypto will put the link in the chat for you, so make sure you show Nick some love on TikTok as well. I want to come to some of the chat's comments and just have a quick discussion about what they're saying on Jono. I think Mark's very pragmatic. That's what I like about Mark. He's always very pragmatic. And let's take our Forest caps off for a second. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick, I'll start with you on this one. Can we improve the team with 60 million? More than what the team would be with Jono in it. He seems to think so. Well, what do you think on this? If we were to get, let's just for argument's sake, say we got 60 million for Jono. Is that more beneficial for the team? And could we bring some players in to fill that void? Or do you think 60 mil wouldn't be enough to bring those players in?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, I think towards the end of the season, where you saw Cooper was leaving him out tactically, maybe to bring him on as an impact player towards the end of the games, showed you that we can compete in the Premier League without him for 70 to 80 minutes. You know, I understand why Cooper was doing that. I think we take 60 million for him. I think two really solid, you know, Premier League proven that have played some European football at 30 million pounds each would improve our team.
I get what you're saying, but are they there? Are they available? Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. That's the question, isn't it? It's a tough one. And Mark, you're a bastard for asking the hard questions, but we're not going to avoid them. Well, what do you think, Ed? I'm not sure. I think 60 million is enough to buy two players in this day and age who are good enough to be anything other than squad players. I think if you got the 60 million, you may just have to buy one player with that money and go for a big name, if at all. I mean, we'll talk about financial fair play in a minute, but yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, and that's why I want to stick to what I'm saying, that he's more valuable to us than the 60 million, because then if you're getting one player out of that, then you're pretty much getting like for like. And there's no improvement in the financial fair play situation, which will become a concern, and we'll obviously talk about that later on in the chat. But yeah, great question, Marco. Great point that you made. But I'm going to go against you on this one. I don't think it would benefit us to sell Brennan, because I don't think the players that are out there at that value are going to be attracted to come to Nottingham Forest to begin with. And if you are, then like I say, it's a like-for-like swap. Isn't it better to keep a player who's starting to really show himself in the team, be part of this team, on and off the pitch? Obviously, there's a great camaraderie, which we've seen glimpses of throughout the season, thanks to the communications team who are involved in all that. But it's important that I think that we build on what we did from last season and not break it apart, because I think it took us a long time from the start of last season to get over those 5 low knees that weren't in the team anymore. I think it took a long time for the rest of the players to gel, the new team. What we need to do is build on what we've got rather than look into... There will be players going out, and there's players that have to go out for me, but Jono for me isn't one of them. And £60 million isn't good enough for me right now that would say that we can get better in whether it's one player or 2 players. I'd rather keep Jono.
I just think 60 is good money. I mean, what's our transfer record? Was it Ollie Burke?
No.
I'm trying to think back.
No, I think it was Brit, wasn't it? Or wasn't it Brit?
Chat or no? I can't remember.
That was almost like a £15 million deal, I think we got for him.
It might have been, when he went to Middlesbrough.
Yeah, when he went to Borough.
I don't know. It starts. You do think though, from a commercial point of view, if someone did come in with 60 million, with the amount of money we spent last summer, 150, etc., I was Maddie Cash to say, oh yeah, the one, yeah, true. So we've had a few decent sell-offs. Some people were putting in the chat, if Villa want him, give us Maddie Cash and 45 mil. I don't know if I'd take Cash back. I think Aurier is okay, but yeah, it's interesting. There's some crazy comments coming in from the chat. So sorry, Ez, you going to say something?
No, I was going to say I'd take Cash back, but I'm not sure I'd take that deal, but I would take Cash back if he's available. Definitely, mate.
Do you think £60 million Sorry. Do you think
Go
£60 million
on.
could buy us a player that can square the ball?
Potentially. But you say that, Nick. So let me ask you this one, because what AD Red's saying is sell Jono and put Scarpa on the right. Now there's someone who can square the ball, cross the ball, put a penalty away, etc. Is there the potential in your mind, Nick, that you would like to see? Again, no one's saying they want Jono to go, right? I mean, you got to,
no Jono haters this week, mate. Simon's had the night off.
Simon's not here this weekend, so the Jono haters are gone. So I love you. But I think you're right. It was Brit as 15 mil. But would you potentially, Nick, consider Scarpa coming into that role? Now, yes, he's untested. He got injured last season, had the crypto issues, etc. But I still get messages from all the Palmeiras fans saying to me, "Why the fuck are you not playing this guy? What's going on? He's a world beater, so to speak." Would you consider that?
I think if you were to make a chart and tick all of the things that Scarpa would bring you that maybe Johnson doesn't, he's a better crosser of the ball. He can take set pieces. He can beat a man with trickery. He probably does a little bit more defensively. I would imagine he's probably better on a free kick.
Yes,
he's probably not got the pace. He hasn't got that blistering pace that Johnson's got. But his heart isn't beating Nottingham Forest. And
Does that matter?
Well, I think someone like Yates has shown that. I think Yates, Johnson, Worrell. I think once you start taking that out of the club, I don't know. You know, you're
kind of talking the identity there, aren't you? You're talking about the identity of the foundations.
It's a really great point. Go on.
I do think that's. I think that's valuable. But on paper, Scarpa offers an awful lot that Johnson doesn't. But he's untested. And if he's getting scammed out of 1.5 million on crypto, you know, maybe we need to be looking elsewhere. Bless him.
That makes a good point. But before we carry on, there's someone lurking in the background. I'm not sure I recognize the face, guys. Okay, does anyone know who that is?
This is a blast from the past.
Hey, welcome back, buddy. How are you?
Good evening.
Hi, mate.
How you doing, bud? It's good to see you. It's good to see you. You're looking sharp, mate.
Looking sharp, mate. Serious.
Yeah, I did a bit of a castaway. I got washed away on the beach, and I've only just managed to find my way back home. So, yeah, I had to clean up. So, good to be back.
I got the notification from FedEx saying Leme is awaiting your arrival, your signature. It's good to see you. All right, Coop Sports, please stop spamming. Okay, it's already done that. Dealt with. Okay. Lemmy is risen, he says. Let me get a quick take on your thoughts on Jono, because I want to move on to talk about Iheanacho in a second. Before we do, guys, over 200 of you in here. Please don't forget to hit that like button. Come on, stop being so lazy. And Lemmy, Jono, where are you with him? We haven't chatted about this one. I'm intrigued to know what you're thinking. Sell, keep? What?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I feel like there's actual good points for both sides of the argument, which is kind of what I've been toying with recently. Initially, when it came through and I heard that it was like 30 million, I was like, no way, just put it in the bin. They're just trying to have a feeler here, just try and see how we'd respond. And I feel like we did the right thing by just setting it quite high. So, but now it seems that Villa's come back in and they've raised their valuation that we got for Brentford. So it seems like maybe there actually is a bit more to it than kind of clubs just trying to put a feeler out. Having him being a homegrown talent and being with us, especially through the championship and then last year, I feel like that's something that you can't just replace with money. You can't just like take that money, put it on another player and expect them to then just turn up and be able to do the job, hitting the ground running. We kind of learned that last year by just trying to throw a load of cash and hoping that we'd be able to get a starting 11 that would stick. It wasn't going to work, and it's not going to work again if we were to try and go down that route. So that's the reason.
I've never made that connection. It's so true. It's so true. What do you
Lewis
been away?
O'Brien.
You've been away on loan
Yeah.
to fucking DC United, mate. Welcome back. Sorry, let me cracking comment, Cujo.
Right.
Go on, let me.
But yeah, when you kind of look at the back end of the season, especially when we really hit that run of form of home to Brighton and then away to Brentford, where we played well and kind of got robbed out of result, and then we were always playing well after that. Jono wasn't starting in those games.
Yeah.
He was an impact sub, and we were playing Awoniyi up top and then feeding into him through Morgan Gibbs-White and Danilo. So, and that was when we then had 5 at the back, which I feel like is the strategy that we're going to go into at the beginning of next season. So you then kind of asking, if we turn down all of these offers, are we then going to try and shoehorn him into start to then kind of put the clubs away when it comes into the January transfer window, or are we going to carry on how we left off at the end of last season? And then you're kind of thinking, why would you not take the money? So it's a difficult one. I would have thought if he'd have played in all of those games at the end of the season, it would be absolutely just bat it away. I'm not interested. But there is room to kind of have that approach where it's like maybe you could see it would be a good deal, but it would have to be kind of at the price range that we kind of set and said that we want 50, 60 mil. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I mean, Ed, just finally on this, we talked about, we were the first to talk about comparing it to the Gordon deal. And now everyone seems to have got on that bandwagon. He was 40, 45 mil. So I don't know, mate. I think 60 mil is tempting. I'm not going to lie. I get everyone's points on both sides.
Yeah.
But, you know, Mark in the chat, he's a smart little cookie. There's grounds in what he's saying. So, yeah, give us closing thoughts. Yes or no?
For me, I think we've got something quite unique with our homegrown players that have made it through the ranks with the team, played together from a youth age, and we've got 3 quality players there that we've seen kick on. We've seen them go through their troubles last season, and we've seen them kick on and get better. And one more season together is all I'm asking for. So I'm not ready to let go of him unless 60 million is about right. For me, is about right for his price tag. So it is very tempting, but I just think we'll get more value out of it by keeping that core together for at least one more season. And so for that reason alone, I would not get rid of him right now. Okay. So I'd like to keep him.
The chat has spoken. Do you think Jono will go? 56% have said no, 20% are not sure, and 24% say yes. So that's this time last week. The percentages were a bit different on that one. Okay, I want to move the conversation on. Nick, I want to come to you and talk about someone linked coming in. Now, it has been slow. The links this transfer window not been as exciting as last summer. But Iheanacho is one that, if you believe the reports and the rumors and everything else, that Forest is seriously interested in. And there's talks he's going to cost us around 20 mil to bring him on board. What are your thoughts on the player as a person? And do you think he would fit in with us? And if so, would you see him as a starter or behind Awoniyi?
I don't know who you replace him with. I don't know. I don't know what he's going to add any more than what we've got. So, I mean, what are you thinking? Playing behind Awoniyi in what?
I think for me, looking at it, I think Cooper may consider a 2 up front formation.
Yeah.
So you could lose. Maybe he goes back 4. I can't see it. I'm just thinking aloud here, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Cooper's going to start with a 5 next season, or do you think it's 4?
I think something that we've overlooked, and it slightly overlaps what we've just been talking about. I think we've overlooked how important Nico Williams is going to be. He was looking fantastic, being pushed up slightly further on the right-hand side. Now, I think with Johnson in the team, we are a little bit more, let the other teams come on to us and hoof the ball up for either him or Awoniyi. Now, if you put Nico Williams on that right-hand side, we can be a little bit more possession-based, maybe not quite as fast on the break, but I think we looked fantastic. Nico Williams looked amazing until he got injured against Brighton, and he was playing that slightly more advanced role. So, if
as the
Cooper's
wing back,
thinking,
Nick. The only thing with Nico Williams, he looked shit as a right back. In a four, he was terrible. Yeah,
he did. But he looked good, pushed on a little bit further, didn't he?
Yeah, in the 5.
Coming back to Iheanacho, the only time I've really watched him play was when we thumped Leicester 5, whatever it was, in the FA Cup.
4-1. Yeah,
I was actually sat in corporate right on the halfway line, and he looked uninterested, out of shape. Yes, it was a one-off. But I think he would be a poor man's Dennis.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think Dennis is better than him? Obviously, with that statement.
I've kind of liked what I've seen from Dennis occasionally.
Man.
I think at times he's been instrumental in creating chances. I mean, the goal he scored against, was it Villa?
Yeah.
We went 1-0 up, didn't we? And he scored an unbelievable goal. But I think he needs game time, and I'm not entirely sure his attitude or personality fits in with what Cooper's looking for. I think he looks a little bit fiery. I can imagine him being a little bit disruptive if he's not getting game time and things like that. But I do see flashes of a very good player in there.
So you think he's better than Iheanacho? I still, as on Iheanacho, would you take him?
What's the price tag on him?
It's about 20. They're talking about 20 for a shitty championship player. Let's remember Leicester.
Yeah, 20 is a little bit. He's had so much potential throughout his career, and I don't think he's reached it at any club he's been with. And obviously, when he was at Man City, he's behind Aguero, and you're just not getting in past the greatest striker they've had in the recent years, certainly. But for me, he's got the potential, but he's just be a backup striker. I mean, for me, he's better than the backups we got already. So as a backup, you'd have to be looking to shift on a few players if you're going to bring him in. If you got to be looking to, at least Surridge has got to be out the door, unfortunately, for some fans out there. But for me, you try and do something with Chris Wood as well. For me, he's a backup, he's fine. But £20 million for a backup, I don't think that's where we can be right now.
19 million for a backup, Wood, mate.
Well, exactly. If you look at the going rates, but his age isn't too bad as well. He's only about 26 years old.
Yeah,
so he's not. Yeah, so he's not past it. He's not hit his potential yet, but maybe he's not been at the right clubs. I think you touched on it earlier about Chappie's was speaking to us about for him. He felt that he just wasn't given the opportunities under Brendan. So maybe if it were the right manager, he could do it. As a backup, I'd have him, but not for 20 million. If you get him down to like 12, 15, I'd probably take him. But you got to be looking to ship out others at that price. If you're not, because the problem we've had was we've had no backup, and the players that we have tried to bring in, the likes of IU, really not good enough. Chris Wood, not good enough for me either. And then Surridge, some say he hasn't been given the opportunities, but for me, he hasn't been good enough either. So if he's going to play, I think he's better than all three of them.
Yeah.
At the right price, and then others have to move on for him to come in. So in that circumstance, I'd do it. I'd go ahead with it.
Jonathan, I fully agree with you. Dembele on a free is absolutely cracking deal. Moussa Dembele would be brilliant. What do you reckon, mate? I just look. All the Leicester fans have told me, including Lee Chappie, that he is really good and they should have played. I just don't trust any of them, right? Because I just go back to them and say, well, why did Daka start ahead of him? Why was Grandad Vardy ahead of him? That's my question back to them. They're like, oh, it was Brendan's fault. Brendan just was a prick and all this stuff. Yeah. I don't know if they're just trying to pull the wool over our eyes and say, here you go, have them. We need 20 million to buy some championship players. But at the same time, he did go on that 7-game scoring streak, didn't he? A season or two ago where he was pushing for Vardy's record. He is a good finisher. he does have a couple of injury issues, which is never good when it comes to Nottingham Forest. So these are kind of the thoughts running through my mind, Lemmy. What are you thinking?
For me, it's kind of, I do agree he has shown glimpses and had purple patches where he is a quality striker.
Yeah.
Right. If you get the ball to him in the box, I feel like I'd have more confidence with him putting it away than I would probably with the one you bouncing off of his shin and like fumbling in. So, but I still just think,
as long as it goes in.
I just think if we were to get him, it'd be something where you'd almost again be trying to shoehorn him into a starting 11 to kind of keep him appeased and try and keep him on that run of form that he has shown that he's capable of. Who do you take out? If you're trying to then play 2 strikers up top and then play Morgan Gibbs White behind, and if you're trying to play a 5 at the back, which I'm sure Cooper will want to do, that then leaves you 2 midfielders, which we already know leaves you massively exposed on the attack in the midfield. And then you'd then be talking about who starts in that midfield. Are you dropping Danilo then further back in there, and then who's playing that? It's so many different permutations that you'd have to think about who's going to drop their spot so that Iheanacho can start up front, so we can play 2 up top. I don't want to
get, sorry, I was going to say, I don't want to get too bogged down with like formations and stuff, but Cooper's, yes, I believe with a hard start we've got, especially away from home, you'll be looking at playing 5 at the back and probably play 3 in midfield as well for those games. But he's got to have a plan B, like I mentioned last week, and he's got to look at the home games that we've got around those away games. We've got to be a lot more attacking in those games, and surely in those you're looking at a back 4 rather than a back 5 in those games. I don't know what you think about that, Lemmy. He's going to surely have to switch it up for certain games.
Lemmy, I don't think so. No, not really. I mean, you kind of look at how many goals we were scoring at the back end of last season by playing a 5 at the back. I mean, we scored 4 against Southampton, 3 against Brighton at home. We beat Arsenal at home. We've scored every single game after that point playing a 5 at the back. We just looked like we were going to be creating more, and we kind of had a system that was working. So I think to then try and change it up to then play 2 strikers, it just feels like you're trying to get something to fit when we had a system that was working at the back end of the season brilliantly. So I don't want to really upset the apple cart with that.
So just say you don't change.
Sorry, again. The other thing Chappie and the Leicester fans saying to me is that he's not really a lone striker. He does need a second striker with him to really accelerate. That's potentially why, in my mindset, maybe a few others are thinking it would be a formation change. Sorry, as you're going to say something.
Yeah, no, just saying. Okay, let's say we don't change the back 5. I would still think against the weaker teams. Let's say weak. No one's weak in this league, but let's say the traditionally slightly weaker teams you've got to be look at then having 2 in the midfield rather than the 3. Would you not look at that option? And then that frees up an extra player where you can potentially play 2 forwards, because against Burnley at home, I'd have no qualms with, let's say, Mangala and Yatesy starting, or Mangala and Danilo. If they're both fit, they'd be they're the first 2 I'd have. What do you think about that, Nick? Maybe I'll push that to Nick. Would you change your midfield up for any of those games against slightly weaker teams?
Nick? I think Cooper's first signing is going to be very telling about what his thoughts are on formations and style of play this season. I think his first signing, whoever it may be, is going to be a sort of cornerstone to what we're doing. And I don't think the first that was Chris Wood. Yeah, well, yeah. So I just saw us too many times last year, teams just totally cutting out our midfield. I think at times we looked, it looked amateurish. The time we had on the ball, the amount of passes that were just not, meeting players. They looked so. I think a new midfielder, someone with real composure, someone that can pull the strings, that isn't at the end of their career. I could see someone like that coming in, and then it does open up the doors for maybe a formation change. But I do think towards the end of the season last year, we did start to find a little bit of rhythm. I mean, what's happening with God's gift to women, Felipe?
And men.
And men, of course.
Even straight men, mate. Seriously, yeah. He's staying. Look, I'll tell you this
He's
now.
staying.
I'll tell you factually. You can quote me on this, yeah. Felipe will be at Forest beyond this season. He's going nowhere. He is going to be the bedrock of Forest, and I've got this on authority. And what the beauty of it is his age, because he is towards the twilight of his career. He hasn't got ambitions to move on to a huge club. I know we're a huge club. I know, don't kill me, chat, for saying that. But also, he's already done it, or hasn't he? He's played Champions League. He's played. He's won the La Liga. He's done all the stuff that he needs to do. And what he's seeing Forest as now is a project. Can he help, take Forest on to the next step? So I've got this on huge authority, and I'll say it with complete confidence that the beauty that is Felipe, he's going to be with us, and they will try and build for the next season or two that team around him.
But I think that's massive then, because I do think he brought the best out of Worrell. I think they've obviously they've obviously. I don't think you realise how important those kinds of players can be off the pitch, and certainly around the training room and learning. So I think the rest of the defence will. But he just looked like a Rolls Royce. I mean, the composure that he showed. I think somebody of that calibre in midfield. Now maybe Danilo is that person, but I don't think Yates is. I think Freuler's going to go.
Yep.
I just don't think I can see a chunk of money being spent on a very, very skillful puppet master in midfield. Somebody, like I'm saying, somebody of Felipe's sort of quality, which then could lead to maybe playing two up front with Iheanacho up there alongside Awoniyi, Gibbs White in front, and maybe Scarpa on the right. Who knows?
Could Nick, could Amrabat be that player for you?
Oh, what a name!
Say again.
Sorry. Amrabat. Could he be that player for you? From Fiorentina?
Potentially. I must admit, I don't know an awful lot about him. I think that the Brazilians coming into the Premier League have just shown Cooper's mindset about bringing players in. He believes that the step up is so big for a lot of these guys coming in that it would need to be done early to get embedded in. Potentially, I don't know an awful lot about him, but let's.
He's not likely to come. I think. I don't know. West Ham are interested. The chat are saying Atletico are interested. Barca are interested, but you never know when the Greek father gets that checkbook out and makes them an offer they can't refuse. You never know.
It was just the way Nick was describing that midfielder that he wants. And I just thought that's a perfect player, and that for me. I mean, we have shown interest in him, but you're right. There's a few other clubs sniffing around him as well.
Yeah,
so we'll be looking to get hold of him.
Just very quickly, I've got to shout out Randoms yet again, gifting and membership to Graham. Congratulations, Graham. Make sure you give Randoms, the legend, a thank you in the chat. And also, Ashley, at the start of the stream, became a member. Thank you so much for becoming a member. I just want to bring the conversation back around a little bit to the strikers. And something that has done the rounds very recently, and I would love your opinion on it, is this. It's from TDB Seymour. It says, I saw Keenan Davis was available for 5 million the other day, and he could be a good backup. Now, this is going to spark a debate in the chat and probably amongst us here. Chat, would you take Davies for 5 million? Lemmy, same question.
Yes, definitely. I'd rather take Davies for 5 million than Iheanacho for 20 million, because I feel like they'd almost be filling pretty much the exact same role as super sub.
100%. 100%.
God, let me really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I would want to stick with how we were finishing off last season with Awoniyi starting off, and then bring him off, and then bring Keenan Davis on, and just play that bullying role, hold the ball up, feed it off to Danilo or Morgan Gibbs-White, who's got the pace to then make the overlapping runs. I just think it would work. We saw it work in the Championship. Obviously, Premier League's completely different kettle of fish. So is he going to be able to do it? Possibly not. But if he's able to body centre-backs in the Championship, I mean, Premier League centre-backs will just go down and try and win a foul. But that's not going to happen, is it? So, I'd take it, because I just don't see us buying Iheanacho and starting him. So if it's fulfilling the same role as being the super sub, I'd want Keenan Davis.
Nick, you're very emotionally straight in there. Am I guessing you're a Davies fan?
I absolutely loved him from the second I saw him. I've got a couple of close friends that are Villa fans, and when we did get him, they were like, he's a donkey, he's no good. And I was expecting a Chris Wood type player, and I just thought, for such a big man, his hold-up play and his touch was fantastic. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I kind of like him more than I like Awoniyi.
Whoa!
Honestly,
welcome to the chat, Nick. Here we go, chat.
There we go.
Let us know what you think.
I think Awoniyi he's done wonders for us, but I think he could offer a little bit more. I really do. Now, again, we've not seen the best of Niakate. You imagine those long throws going into Davis's hold-up play and the little flick-ons to Gibbs-White. The chances that Awoniyi's not going to, he doesn't hold the ball up as well as Davis does, or did, in my opinion. Okay. The ball knocks off of him. His first touch is questionable. I mean, the goal he scored against was it against Crystal Palace? I mean, it was fairly lucky. You'd be a bit pissed if you were a defender or a goalie. I mean, it looks like he lost control of the ball twice, and he managed to somehow shovel it in. I mean, how many goals did he score this season? 11.
Yeah, and he was injured for half.
10, 11.
Yeah, 10
he was, but
overall.
7 of those goals were extremely lucky, in my opinion.
There you go. Welcome to the chat. They started on you, mate. What's Nick been smoking?
I absolutely love Davis, and I think if we can get him, I'd go 10 mil. I'd go 10 mil. Honestly, the other thing, and I keep coming back to this, he bought into Nottingham Forest. Him and Jed Spence.
Yeah,
we missed not just their ability on the ball, but we admit I can imagine that he was amazing around the training ground, in the halftime talks, things like that. He bought into Nottingham Forest, and I think if we can get players that are already on board, it's half the job.
I'm still getting over the whole David. They're on you, Nick. They're on you. You gotta. Our chat. This is our chat, so they'll talk straight to you. Yeah. I gotta say I disagree with you. I think Awoniyi is definitely a better player. I think we do get too sentimental with Davies. Like I thought he was better than Sturridge for me. But this is what I love, Nick. I don't want people on here who are just going to echo chamber everyone else's opinions. We need different points of view on it. That's what makes this channel what it is.
I absolutely loved him. Just from the moment I saw him, I just thought he's everything that you want. He's got pace, he's got passion. He was so skillful for such a big guy, and I just thought he's going to be a menace in the box. He's going to get back and track. He's going to. Yeah, I absolutely loved him. I mean, him and Jed Spence over that season were, if not my favourite players, that they were way up there. And I just thought he made such an impact to the club, the fans. I mean, I can't say enough about those two, but I would bring him back in a heartbeat.
All right, Nick, let me see where your sentimentality stops. Martin's saying here, what about Zink and Garner? Would you take them back?
I think Zink would have done a job. I really do. I think he would have been okay. Garner, no. I think he's shown what he's about at Everton. You know, he's not really had a lot of game time from what I've followed.
Yeah.
No. But I do think Zink was a big miss. I think he had Premier League quality when we were in the Championship, and you could see that. And I think at times we've looked lacking in composure and passing of the ball. That's not just a rushed attempt. It's meaningful. But no, Ghana, no, absolutely not.
Okay, Ez, I want your thoughts on Davies. And I've got to say, I agree with Cooper's Low Block. People are too sentimental over Davies. He's not good enough because you have to ask the question, Ez, why isn't he getting into the Villa team? You know, why does he always got to drop to Championship to get football? Just looking at the other side of the argument. Look, as we always say here, all views are welcome. And I love that Nick's got an opposing view to maybe me. Maybe you. I don't know. Where are you with Davies? And guys in the chat, get those votes in the poll. 56% of you so far have said Davies, rather have Davies over Iheanacho. Gunners.
Well, I kind of I'll shoot the question back out to the chat as well. If we could have gone in for 5 million at the start of last season, would we have gone in for him? Because I think we would have. I think
it
what
was 15 mil. They were talking about 15 as at the start.
Exactly.
Of last season.
That's what put us off when they went to 15 mil. So I think for 5 mil last season, we would have got him in. Looking at his stats from last season, he played 34 games, and in the 46 game Championship season. So that's not too bad for the Championship. He scored 7 and got 2 assists, which kind of like was what he did for us. But what he did for us was much more than that, wasn't it? And Nick and both Lemmy have alluded to it. It was the way he held up the ball, and we didn't have a player who did that last season. I thought the whole point of bringing Chris Wood in was that he would hold up the ball, flick it on, be good in the air. None of that. We didn't get any of that from him. And I think I'd kind of agree with Nick on this one. I don't think Awoniyi's hold-up play is anywhere near as good as Keenan Davis's. We've not seen Keenan do it at the top level, and that's always going to be the question mark. But for 5 million, that's a question I don't mind exploring, to be honest. I'd be tempted to go. I'm going to sound so sentimental. I'd be tempted to go in for him, mate, because we would have gone in for him.
You'd take Jedback,
I would definitely take Jedback. You know I would. But my point is, we would have gone for, if he was 5 million last season, we would have brought him in. And touching on what we said earlier about the players who bonded, him and Jed, it felt like they were our own players. It was a shame that we couldn't bring either of those back. But I think if we had that time again and we could do it again, I think we would have. And I think we would have settled into the team a lot better as well. I'm not against it for me. And for 5 million, I'd take a gamble. I wouldn't push any much higher than that. I think 5 to 7 was what
Carl
we said.
says, the old cheese strings.
Absolutely. But then who hasn't had injury troubles this season in our squad?
True.
Look, we can talk about the stats of our injuries and how many minutes we lost through player injuries last season, and it was far more than any other club in the Premier League. So not only did we start a new season with a whole new squad, we had the most injuries than any other team, and we still managed to stay up. So there's a lot to be said for that. Let's hope lightning doesn't strike twice and we get a lot better season next season. And for a start, that we bring in a head physio, because we didn't have one all season last year, did we?
Yeah.
Those little things need to be fixed, and I think that's where the focus is going to be much more this pre-season going into the season, rather than spending lots of money and getting lots of players in. We need to look at what we've got at the moment and maybe trim the fat a little bit. But for Keenan Davis for 5 million, the final word on it, yeah, I'll take a gamble.
Are we too sentimental as fans, as a fan base? I'll say my piece on Davis. I loved him in the Championship, yeah, but I don't think he's a Premier League striker. I think he falls just slightly above the Sam Surridge bracket for me. I like how strong and physical he was. He was bulldozing through, as some of the guys in the comments are saying. But I'm just not convinced he's Prem. Back up, maybe. Get rid of Surridge, put him in. I don't know. Are we too sentimental, Lemmy?
I think, yes, we probably are a bit too sentimental, but I don't think we can really be blamed for that when we've got a group of lads who have taken us up to the Premier League for the first time in 20 years. Obviously, you're gonna have an attachment to all of those, because it was an entire group effort from every single player, the backroom staff, the mentality of next man up. Every single player on the starting 11 and the subs bench for every game, you had that kind of attachment to, because they all played a massive role to get us promoted. So yes, there is always going to be a sentimentality to it, and that's why Villa tried to exploit it last year, because they knew no other Premier League club was going to go in for him at 15 mil. They set that price tag for us, and only for us, in case we wanted to try and bring him in and keep him. Now it's down to 5. I think that's probably where his true value is, because he's not a Premier League starter, but I think he is the kind of person that we need to be bringing on 60 minutes in, legs are a bit tired, and he comes on as a striker. It's just going to give us a bit of a different edge, as opposed to bringing on Surridge, who's probably a better goal scorer, but is not also at that Prem quality. And then Ayew or Wood, who would you want to start out of all of those? It's always going to be Keenan Davis. Keenan Davis would be the perfect backup striker, and I think he would fill that role properly.
Yeah, but Nick, do you not think we should be looking for someone who could replace Awoniyi rather than someone who's on par or below? If we're going to make that next step forward as a Premier League team, advancing up the table, in my deluded head finish top 7, don't we need people in there who are going to challenge rather than just accommodate for what we've already got?
Well, I think Davis does.
You were going to say that.
I think Davis does. I'm still not convinced the one is the one. He's.
Oh, I didn't shut him off. That wasn't me. That wasn't me. What happened, Nick?
It's not a conspiracy. Don't worry.
Oh, my hands are here. Well, is he back?
Is he? Go on, Nick.
I don't know where you've gone. There we go. Hey.
I'm not pressing anything. My hands are still up, guys. Look. Are you back with us?
Are we there?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, that was the conspiracy, wasn't it?
He's going to do a TikTok on that tomorrow, guys. Watch out for it.
I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that he is. I'm not convinced he's a Prem striker. So we've obviously seen him for many games, and I think his touch is poor. I don't think he beats men unless he's got a straight run onto them. His shooting, we don't know, because everything he's scored has been 6 yards out. Having said that, we need that kind of striker. I think you do, but I don't know. I think if we're going to move in the right direction, I don't think Awoniyi is the answer, and I don't think Keenan Davis is necessarily the answer. Of course not. I think we need to be looking for something better than both of them.
But it's not Davis. Davis isn't the one, man. No. Absolutely ripping you one now, Nick, in the chat. They're ripping you one now in the chat. It's why I love this chat. It's why they'll hold your feet to the fire. Okay, Ez, we got to talk about this in terms of what Chapo said here. I've seen loads of this comment. Again, bloody Mark with his good points as well. AFCON. If we were to bring Iheanacho in, we got Awoniyi in there. You've got Niakate. You've got Serge Aurier. You've got Chekiote if he's still there next season, and a couple of others probably that I've forgotten about. Is this something we need to plan around from now, or can we wait till January and kick it down the road?
No, I think we've got to have a game plan in place right now. And that would be the thing that would, apart from a price tag, I said 20 mil is too high for me. Apart from price tag, that's the other thing, the African Cup of Nations that he's going to be away for as well. That kind of like, for me, means, I've got to drop his price down. But either way, you still need backup. And the backup that we've got at the moment is Chris Wood and Sam Surridge. So... Either way, whether you're only bringing in Davis just to cover that period, Iheanacho isn't the answer either. So we're still in that same situation, should they do well, you know, we've lost them for a whole month, haven't you? You know, I know there's an international break there anyway, so there'd be a couple of players. It'd be a couple of weeks we'd have off. But
there's going to be a split winter break. So what's going to happen is 10 teams will play 1 week while the other 10 teams rest, and then the next week the other 10 teams will play while the other rest. So in theory, they all get about 13 days break in between. So it's not going to be as huge an impact with the AFCON as it has been in previous seasons, but I believe it'll be 4 or 5 matches they will miss for us in that time frame. So it is something that needs to be considered. Yeah,
definitely. And you got to kind of plan for it and not, as you say, kick the can down the road and wait till have and see what we do in January. But either way, I mean, we've got to have a strategy for January even now. Whatever happens, you might not have a short list of players, but you got to know that if this is going right, then we stick with that. If the game plan isn't going right, then you're looking at what you can change. It all boils down to whether other players, for me, have got to be moved on, and we're going to get onto this now about financial fair play, because we have spent a lot of money already this season. There are players that we know now that haven't worked, and we're going to have to look at moving them out before we're looking at bringing anybody in. And I think that is going to be something that the fans have got to be aware of and be kind of accepting of as well going forward.
Yeah. Let's move forward, and I want to bring in what Ben's saying here. We've talked about strikers a lot, but there is a gaping hole in the team at left back now, with the whole Lodi thing looking very unlikely now, with this whole family situation and everything like that. And Omar Richards still trying to grow back his leg. What do you think on this? We've had a few links to left backs. We've had Augusto, from Monza, who's probably going to Inter. We've recently had Goosens from the ex-Atlanta, currently Inter player, who's a converted left wing back. Are any of those names exciting you, or would you be willing to look at Omar Richards and if his leg does grow back, would you consider playing him?
I don't think when you said exciting, I don't think that's the right word I'd use for any of the guys that we've been linked with, but that's because we're putting them in the comparison of Renan Lodi.
Yeah.
I think to find someone who's going to be able to replace that role that he's filled for his last season is going to be very difficult. I think I agree with Ted, though. Out of the ones that we have been linked with, I probably would want to go with Gosens, just because he is that converted left mid into a left wing back. To pair him up with then Nico Williams on the right hand side, if we play more narrow through the midfield and attack, and then allow those two to kind of have more of an exploration up the wings, I feel that's the right way to try and go. But I don't know at the moment. I think we're still always struggling to see what's happening. Who kicked out of the team?
They're still at you. Arsene, let me tell us why he was kicked out into DC United. Sorry. Carry on. But so would you rather let me? We had gone gung-ho and got Lodi in. I mean, we had the 25 mil clause or whatever it was to buy him. Yes, it expired before we were safe. But do you think they could have convinced him and his family about living in Nottingham and all that stuff? Or do you just think it's dead in the water?
No, I don't think so. I think we managed to get him. I think the only reason we were actually able to really get him in the first place was because he was trying to get into the Brazil squad for the World Cup, and he was trying to get playing time. And there wasn't really any of the Premier League team that was kind of shopping in that market at that particular moment in time. So it really was kind of like a flash in the pan at that moment. He was looking for a top flight club to get starting game time with, and we were having a left back who'd lost his leg, and then another one that was kind of questionable. So it kind of just worked at the time, and I just feel like he is probably looking in the right market at the moment, where he's trying to get to a club where he can play Champions League football and be a starting left back. I think that is where he does belong. So if we were able to get him, it would have been brilliant. But like you said, his loan deal expired before we actually had certainty of staying up. And I just think paying that kind of money, if we were to get relegated, just would have been another difficult situation that we'd had to have tried to dig ourselves out of. So it is sad that we're probably not going to be able to get him back again, but we're just going to have to try and find someone who is going to try and almost fill his boots, but which is going to be difficult.
Yeah, Nick, were you a fan of Lodi?
I think Toffolo's better than Lodi.
Oh, we're gonna have you on so much more, mate. You're gonna blow this chat's brains right now. Oh, you bloody let me left. Let me left.
Go on. No, I think Lodi was special. I think he took I think I was at his first game. I think it was at Fulham. I think Fulham at home. I think that was one of his first games that I got to watch him play, and you could see Sparks say it took him a while to sort of settle in, and obviously, but it was absolute quality, pure class. I think we'll miss him. I don't think for 25 million we'll get somebody that's better. We might get somebody that's equally as good. But I don't think we'll get anybody better. So I do think we've missed the trick there. But like you were saying, it's possibly more to do with family and people, people around him. Possibly not wanting to do. But no, I think it was fantastic. I don't think Toffolo was better than him. I think Toffolo was found out early in the season. Probably against Newcastle, first game of the season. I think I can remember watching that one. I don't know if he definitely started, but. We were getting cut apart down there. But no, I think Lodi's going to be massively missed. And then I don't think for 25 million we're going to get better than what we had.
Yeah. Have you been inspired by any of the links? Robin Goosen or Gusson, or however you pronounce his name, or this Augusta guy? Do you know much about them?
Not a huge amount. Obviously, you hear the names and then you go onto YouTube, and everybody looks world class on YouTube. I think what should come on YouTube with every player is a bloopers reel as well. I don't think you should be allowed to have a reel on YouTube which shows you, because I've watched some of these players in the past. I'm thinking, God, say this is Maradona on here, and then go and have a look at Chris Wood's highlight reel. Go and have a look at Chris Wood's highlight reel, and we've got a £55 million striker on our cards.
Wait, there's a highlight reel for Woods.
Go and have a look at it. He looks absolutely amazing. So yeah, but no, I don't know. I trust Cooper as long as Cooper's in control of most of the transfers this transfer window, because I'm not entirely sure how much say he had in 70% of the transfers last year. So I think if Cooper's I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think the first transfer of this transfer window is going to say a lot about what we're going to do this season or what we're looking to do. So if Cooper's at the helm, I've got absolute faith in him, because let's face it, who thought Jed Spence was going to be any good when he came?
Yeah.
I certainly didn't. And he turned him into a wonderful player. I think Gibbs White is a far better player now than he was this time last season. So if he gets the players that he wants, he can work wonders with them. And I think his man management style obviously works with certain players. He can put his arm around them. I can imagine that, even when he's told a player that they're not starting, they're okay with it because it's for the best of the team. But
unless you name Shelby.
Unless you name Shelby. But do you know what? I saw Shelby in that first game that he played once we got him on loan, and he was sprained. Can't remember who were we playing?
It was Fulham.
Fulham game, yeah.
It was Fulham, and he came on and he was putting passes, big long balls, spraying them to the sides, and I thought, hang on a second, this could work. And it didn't for whatever reason. I don't necessarily think it was footballing reasons why it didn't work. I think reading what whether you take it with a pinch of salt, a lot of what happened off of the pitch is what's caused him to be sort of asked to leave politely. But yeah, I do think he showed a little bit of class, if I'm being honest with you. So let's trust the process. But yeah, let's vote for a bloopers reel before we sign anybody. Show us the highlights by all means, but show us your bloopers, and then we can we can talk.
I like that. Andrew's saying last year was Lingard first signing. No, it was Awoniyi, and actually we signed him today last year. So it was the first, and then I think Biancone was the second one in, if
Biancone
I
was one
remember
of those
rightly.
as well, wasn't he? Yeah,
Yeah.
and Niakate.
Oh, bloody hay fever. As I want to move on to talk about the transfer window in general, but just a quick reminder, guys, we've got nearly 250 of you in here. Please do hit the like button. We're also starting, you'll be seeing in the background, little expansion plans of the empire, so to speak. So Ez has just started up a new Premier League channel, can be part of FFTV. Dino's got the High Press. We've got the gaming channel as well. If you guys would take a second just to subscribe to all of those, if you put !FFTV in the chat, all the links will be there. And of course, our beloved guest here, Nick, today, make sure you go and follow him on TikTok. Crypto will put his link in the chat for you guys as well. So make sure you show Nick some love. So take a second, do those things. That's your homework currently. And we're going to pivot over and talk about FFP now. And as something that we're understanding from the club is that there's going to be more players going out than coming in. Okay, that's a given. I think anyone with any rational thought process will understand that. We almost chucked everything into the pot, stirred up the ingredients, and now the leftovers have to be thrown away, for want of a better phrase. Now, do you think this is the right approach by the club? Because I think we'll probably, and do you think they can move on as many players as they want to? I mean, when we did the stream the other week, we ended up with about 10 or 11, I think, that needed to go.
Yeah.
It's not that easy to move players on. Do you think they're going to have trouble?
Yes. As much as they know what they need to do, getting it done is going to prove a lot more difficult. And one of the biggest things that is going to affect this FFP target that we're in is to do with the wages that some of these players are on, and not necessarily the transfer fees. So moving a few players on that I feel aren't part of a bigger picture and aren't going to be part of a bigger picture is absolutely essential in this summer transfer window. And I think it makes sense, and it has to make sense, and the fans have to kind of accept it. But people will have their opinions on it, but definitely expect more outgoings and incomings in this window, without a doubt. And it has to balance itself out at some point. We did make mistakes last season. There's no skirting around that issue. And a great point that Nick made as well, that I think Cooper will have a lot more say in who comes in this window, but that will also show how much faith the club have in Cooper taking this club onto the next step, because you're only going to invest if you believe he's the right man to do that. So a lot of it will become evident.
I don't think he gets to say it as this isn't the 90s anymore.
I think a lot more. No, ultimately there's committees and there's boards and there's obviously people above him that are in charge of recruitment. But I do agree with Nick that he'll have a lot more say in it. Whether he'll get in the players that he wants or not, that will be dependent on what we can afford and what not. But just going back to the point, the fans, I think, will agree that there's got to be players that need to go, and there will be more going out than there will be coming in this window. No doubt about that.
Well, what do you reckon, Lemmy? Do you think we've got enough? Would we get enough fundage by selling our deadwood in the summer? Because is there much value in these players? Honestly, objectively speaking, and is the value going to end up more being about saving off the wages rather than the actual transfer values?
I think, it is going to probably be the savings that we're going to make off of wages, where we're going to try and claw more money back than it is trying to get the transfer fees for some of these players that we've brought in. I do agree that we are going to get rid of more players than we brought in this year.
Yeah,
it is just going to be the ones that we brought in that just a surplus to requirements now. I mean, if we could sell wood, I'd probably do that as one of the first bits of business. I just don't think that's going to be possible now, especially since we just brought him in. But I feel we are just going to have to try and trim it, and then we then have to try and think, right, what do we want to do? Do we want to try and bring more players in, or do we want to try and keep the players that we've got now by bolstering up their contracts? You just get into a real mess with it. It just becomes really difficult to kind of keep a track of. So it's one of those where it's kind of, I'll leave the guys that work for Forest to do all the planning and stuff, and then I guess we'll try and then have our say once the dust has settled a little bit, and we'll kind of then give our thoughts on what we think has happened.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, Nick? Because do you think the hierarchy are worried about financial fair play currently? Because we spent a shitload last summer and in January, both good and bad. And do you think we've got to take a bit more of a more responsible approach this summer window? And us as fans have to lower our expectations of, it felt like you were waking up every day and at least 2 players were signed last summer. You were pissed off when it was only 1 on some days, you know what I mean? So do we have to rein in our expectations a little, understand that football is a business, whether we like it or not, and kind of adhere and trust what Marinakis and his guys are doing?
I think Marinakis has probably looked at Everton and thought, who gives a shit? I mean,
Man City,
yeah. Man City. So, I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago I was looking at something. I don't know what it was, and it was comparing our size of squad, our wages bill, and our net spend, and we were way, way, way down the table. So I don't know fully how it works, whether it's the financial fair play spread over a number of seasons.
3 years.
3 seasons, yeah.
So I would be massively surprised if we're teetering on the edge of financial fair play. But what I would say to that is, if that team that finished this season against Arsenal and Crystal Palace had stayed fit for 90% of the season, we'd have finished about 15th with no new additions, that squad with game time. So I think we don't need to overlook how good a squad we actually do have if we can keep them all fit. We don't need wholesale changes. We need an addition here, an addition there. We need a goalkeeper. We need a left back. I think we need another striker and another midfielder, and that's about it. So the fringe players can go. Notts County's only across the road. They'll take all the dead wood off of us if they want. We might be able to offload a few of them to the Greek man's new club, which he's just bought. Yeah. So, there's a trio of clubs now, and I do personally think, being in the Premier League and the history behind Nottingham Forest, that we're at the top of that trio of clubs in the Greeks' mind. So I could see some players being shifted around between the clubs. But like I say, I would be massively surprised if we are anywhere near breaching fair play rules at the moment. But like I say, the Everton debacle has set a precedence. The fact that they've, that's just been brushed under the carpet speaks volumes. Now, many people might say that, they wouldn't be as lenient on Nottingham Forest because, we seem to be, this time last year, we seemed to be everybody's favourite club and everybody wanted us to do well. Yeah. And then we lose 20 players and buy 30, and all of a sudden we need a triple-decker team bus and an extra 6 pitches for training. And I still have to try and tell people now, if it wasn't for those players, we'd have been putting us 4 out for the last couple of games, wouldn't we? Because the amount of injuries was absolutely ridiculous. And I'm not sure that had panned out. So, I'm sure somebody in the chat has got the figures for the size of squads in the Premier League, the wage bills, and the net spend. And I would be amazed if we're anywhere near mid-table.
Yeah, we are in the bottom half of it, but we do have about 43 players on the books. Now, you are including some youth players and what have you. It is definitely too big a squad. I'll be shocked if the club aren't going to trim the fat, so to speak. But it's you're spot on. You've actually won the crowd back, Nick. Well done, yeah. For now, until you next speak. They're all agreeing with what you're saying there. But don't worry, they'll flip on you over your next sentence. Don't worry. But I still think there needs to be fat trimmed. I think I would rather get 3 quality signings. I think you've said this a lot, Lemmy, over the past year, haven't you? You've been dreaming about ASM coming in from Newcastle and stuff. But are you still thinking like that, Lemmy? Do you want 2 or 3 kind of dust sprinkling signings on the top? Is that where you're at?
I think, especially off of the back of what happened last season, where we brought in 30 players and we kind of threw them all at a wall, tried every single permutation of who would start, what formations would start, and we just tried to see what would stick. We kind of got to that point towards the end of the season where we almost had a starting 11, assuming that there was no injuries that happened the few games before. We kind of got to a point now where we've got a settled squad. So now you need to look at, right, where do we want to try and make a couple of improvements? And I think it is just maybe 3 or 4 that we probably have to bring in. And I just think if we do that and then try and stick with the core that we've ended up building off the last 5 or 6 games of the season, we're in a much better place than we were at the start of last season. I just feel that has to be the way to go.
What's your 3 spots, Lemmy? Because we haven't spoken for a while, so I don't really care about Ez's because I've heard it a million times. I've memorized it. I mean, I'm interested in what you and Nick think. If you want, just let's say you could have 3 positions, not necessarily players. If you got players in mind, shout them out. But what's your 3 target positions?
Goalkeeper, centre back, left back.
Okay. Goalkeeper, centre back, left back. So you think we need another centre back?
Well, goalkeeper is an absolute must. I feel. As is left back. That's just something that has to be done. And then out of all the other positions, it would be, I just feel if we're looking forward and trying to build something going forward, it would be, I'd rather have a younger centre back to bring in to then try and learn the ropes and then build on what we've got from Felipe, Bolly, who are all going to be aging out probably next season, really. I think they'll be struggling to be able to keep up the pace that they've shown this year. So I just feel that that is where we're going to have to try and look at. If we're able to kind of pass over that wisdom to what we've already got there, excellent. But I just don't think it's there at the moment.
Okay, chat, get your 3 positions in. I've seen Spirits put in goalkeepers, DMC and AML. Are you giving up on the ASM dream then, Lemmy?
Yeah.
He is technically available.
Yeah, but he was available pretty much every single day of the both transfer windows last year. So I'd rather not get my hopes set again and then have them crushed. It just kind of drags after a while.
Nick, what about you? What if I know you mentioned a couple before, but if you had to prioritize it, let's not do goalkeeper. Goalkeeper's a given. We know we need one. But if you had to strengthen 3 specific slots on the pitch, where are you looking at?
I'm going to go a little bit left field with this one because he's actually from my hometown. I think Dewsbury Hall from Leicester could do a job for us. Okay. I quite like him.
Banded around a few
I don't
times
think it costs much. Yeah, I quite like him. He's for me, he seems to have a little bit more class than maybe a Yates. He can do a little bit more. He scores a bit more. I quite like Harvey Barnes as well. So if we were dipping into Leicester, I know he's been touted as being somebody that Tottenham are after. But I do like Barnes. I would have a punt on Dewsbury Hall. We obviously need a goalkeeper. I agree with Eze. Or was it Eze? Maybe. I think we do need another centre back. I'm not convinced by Bolly. I'm not convinced with Worrell playing there. I think if we could get somebody of a similar status to Felipe, I think a lot of the nervous midfield exchanges and passes came from the centre backs passing. If you remember early on in the season, and I remember vividly, some of Worrell's passing was absolutely shocking, and it then instilled this kind of panic in the rest of the team. And I think when you see Felipe come on and he calms it down, he does a little Cruyff turn in the box to take a player out. All of a sudden, the midfielders are like, okay, we've got a bit of control here. So I think if we could add another centre half that was going to do the same sort of job as Felipe, I think that would bring the best out of some of your midfielders. So I definitely think another, like we were saying, another centre back. I think that left side could do with a bit of strengthening, and I do think we need that quality midfielder. I think we could. I think we've got enough goals in us if we kept Johnson with Awoniyi and Gibbs White up front. I think we've got enough goals in us if we could just create a little bit more through that midfield.
Yeah. I think they're fair points. I know Chester is a Leicester fan in here saying we'll never get them, Nick. But their championship, may I remind them? May I remind Leicester to, stand in their actual queue? Have you changed at all from your thought process? Are your priorities moving a little, or are you still the same?
No. Well, if you say, I agree. I mean, if you're saying goalkeepers, definite, we'll just count that one out. But I still think we do need a centre back as well. I'd be interested just to get a quick yes or no answer from Nick really on this, because Lemmy said he'd go for a younger centre back, and that's where I would be looking as well. And I know Nick's talked about more experience, but what do you think? I mean, age-wise, Nick, what would you be looking at as a centre back if to add to that back line that we've already got? And in fact, let me throw in another curveball, because we had this discussion last week as well. We said we don't think we can keep both Worrell and McKenna. One of them has to go.
Yeah.
What would you say about that? Do you think one of those two has to go?
I think McKenna goes. I'm big on keeping the spine and the heartbeat of the club, and I think Worrell is more than just a decent. You've seen how he's grown over the season. I mean, he was shocking at the start of the season. He really was, and I think he would be the first to admit that.
Yeah.
He's grown into it. I think he potentially could become a very good centre back, but I would be reluctant to take out that heartbeat. I mean, you imagine if we lost Worrell and we lost Johnson this summer transfer. You've lost more than two good players there. So I would be reluctant. So I'd get rid of McKenna, and again, I would like to see us going in for 29, 30-year-old as another centre back. Okay. I don't think we need to be going for a young whippersnapper that's going to be pulling up trees and whatnot. I think a nice steady back four, back three, who can control a pass, who can calm the play down, let the midfield reposition themselves, let the midfield have faith that the ball's going to come to feet. If it's going to be, if that's the tactic, if it's going long ball again, down the wings, great. But I don't think we're going to come out the start of this season playing the way that we were doing, which was massively counter-attacking, big, massive long balls up. I think we're going to try and play a little bit more pragmatically. So, I would have no problem in going in for a twilight defender who's going to have some quality, the same as Felipe.
Okay. So for me, I mean, going back to the question, yes, I think we do need another centre back, and I would say that obviously we've got to get rid of someone to give him that place. And I think his name's Mavropanos or someone like that. The Greek one is certainly the one. Yeah, out of all the ones we've been connected or been linked with so far, I think he for me probably fits the mold best, and it's somebody I'd like to see us pursue. But then looking forward, you definitely need to work on that left side. And I think when Nick said it, he also meant obviously we need a left winger, left wing back, but also somebody, because I don't think I think we agreed that Dennis is not going to be given a chance by Cooper. As much as we might like him and think that he deserves a bit more of it, I don't think he's going to be given a chance by Cooper. So we need somebody in that place. And Callum Hudson-Odoi is still the one for me if he's available. One, because of his links with Cooper back in the past. And he's still a player that I think he's got a hell of a lot to offer. He's just not had the game time at all at Chelsea. And he's not going to get it at Chelsea, is he? With their wage limits and with their players. And I think they are looking to move him on definitely this summer, aren't they? So I think he's one that I'd look at. But a CDM, a left back, left winger, and maybe Either competition for Awoniyi or backup to Awoniyi, because I think if Awoniyi had been given a full season, I think we would have been looking at close to 18 to 20 goals from him. So for what he managed in a short space of time, he has got a little bit of luck with his finishing, and I think that's important as well. But his strike rate's very, very impressive. It doesn't take many shots for Awoniyi to score a goal, and if you look at those stats alone and the key goals he scored this season, I think Nick's underrated him a little bit, from my opinion. But I think somebody definitely for him to compete with, but certainly needs some backup going up there. So 4 players, I would say, on top of a goalkeeper, you're looking at 4 outfield players. So not a huge shopping list, but an important shopping list to get it right in the right places. And we have to have some continuity, because that's the only way we're going to grow as a team.
Yeah.
The best teams, the Brightons, even the Fulhams, if you look at what we did going up and down, they kept with that core of that team. And they've got some fantastic players there who have grown and has made that base of their team a lot stronger. And we've got to have that as well. We can't keep having these 20-player transfer windows every summer or every January window. So stick to what we've got, trim the fat like you've mentioned, but look at key players in key positions, and we've got to be better than what you've got already. So you're going to be replacing what we've got with better players, hopefully, in those positions.
Okay.
What about Nonto from Leeds?
Oh, I'd take him.
I mean,
15 mil.
He looked fantastic. He ripped us to pieces, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I saw him, a couple of times. I think he played against Man United when they, they were with a 2-0 up or something like that. So somebody like that might be an absolute gem but it would have to be playing in a system that worked for him. And I'm not entirely sure if you'd have thrown him into the team how we were playing last season, it would have been successful. But potential there. And how much do you think we'd get him for?
He's about 15. That would be thereabouts. Yeah. Lemmy, you were a fan of him last year, weren't you? You were raving a bit about him. Would you still take him?
Of who? Sorry.
Nonto.
Yeah,
from Leeds.
I'd definitely take him. I don't think that'd be questionable. I think it'd be more what other clubs are in for him, because he's similar to Morgan Gibbs-White. He's currently playing in the under 21 Euros. I think he grabbed at least 1 goal today, possibly 2. So he's still showing up on the international stage as well as what he was doing for Leeds. So I think he'd be one that'd be probably quite high on other clubs' shopping lists.
Yeah.
So it'd be one that I'd love to have in, but I just don't think I think he could be possibly aiming higher.
All right, let's move on to this last question. Dream realistic signing. Lemmy, I'll start with you. Who's the one? One name
on that one.
All right, I'll go. Shall I start with Ez? I'll give you a second to think about it, all right? And chat, give us your one name if you could take one over all else. And we're going to say no keepers, okay? Because it's a bit boring if we're talking keepers, right? Let's talk outfield players. One name. Ez, name.
Player that we haven't mentioned yet, and I think is one that we could get as well, and it would make a difference. And that's again another Leeds player, and that's Rodrigo. I think we can go in for him.
3.5 mil.
Yeah, I think he's very attainable. We just got to be there'll definitely be clubs in for him, which will push his price tag up, but it's still not going to be extortionate. But he's a player that I think would make a massive difference to our front line, just because he's a different type of player altogether to what we got.
Okay. You ready, Lemmy?
Yeah, I think it probably would be. If we were able to get Hudson-Odoi, I think that'd be one of the best ones that we could probably get. I think Lacroix, if I was thinking for a centre-back, he'd be the best centre-back that we probably would be able to sign.
Beauty, yeah.
But I think for kind of what we've been pitching for, I think, if we were able to get Hudson-Odoi, I think that'd be a brilliant addition into our strike force.
All right, Nick, are you ready? Is your dream realistic
Tyler
signing?
Adams.
Good shout.
Tyler Adams.
He's perfect for us, isn't he?
He's absolutely perfect for us. And I forget the name of the other lad for Leeds that played up front.
Sinistera.
I would say Bamford.
He scored against. Not Bamford. No. Don't be silly. I'm sure he scored against us at their place. He might have scored
Sinistera.
Liverpool.
Oh, Harrison.
No, Jack Harrison.
Yes,
No?
Harrison.
Jack Harrison. Yeah.
I like him, but Adams, I think, in actual fact, I could also go Nonto. So any one of those three from Leeds, or Marinakis, if you're listening, maybe all three, do a little bit of a deal.
Buy two, get third
yeah,
free.
but Adams, I think he fits right in. I think he would get the, however much we hate Leeds, I think they have very similar undertones and passion and history as we do. I think it would be not a like for like swap, but I think he would fit right in. I think he would get the fan base. I think he would get the culture. I think he would. I'd go all out for Adams.
Would you do that, Nick? What Chapo's saying? Give them O'Brien plus cash for Tyler Adams.
100%. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I don't think Lewis O'Brien did anything wrong. I'd love to see him get some game time, but yes, if that deal was put in front of me now, O'Brien and cash all day long. Yeah.
How do you feel about being part of a part exchange there, Lemmy? Would you be all right to go play for Leeds?
I don't really want to go to Leeds. It's not really my cup of tea. I'd rather go back to DC if I had the choice, but out of my hands. It's out of my hands.
For me, I would agree with Nick, though. Tyler Adams would be my number one choice. If we couldn't get him, I'd love to see Calvin Phillips coming in on loan from Man City if he's not going to get the game time. We need that type of player. There's a lot of current Leeds players we're all interested in, which is weird. But yeah, all right, guys, you've had some fantastic suggestions in the chat as well. We will wrap it up there. We've gone. Where's an hour and a half gone? Seriously, it's absolutely flown by. It's flown by. Can I just have a massive thank you from chat? Give Nick a massive thank you in there. Make sure you go and subscribe to his TikTok. What are you on now, Nick? About 112,000 odd following you there, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, 112, 115,000 followers. So nice. If you want some alternate opinions and no bullshit, then come and have a look. And don't forget, it is TikTok. Some of it's tongue in cheek. So, but yeah, it'd be nice to see some of you on there. There's a couple of good guys from Nottingham on TikTok. Some of you might have seen him there. Yeah. I like to have a bit of banter with the Bully Slayers on there. So that'd be wicked. And we'll do a live, and perhaps you can come and join me on one of my lives, guys. And
would love to.
We'll chat some shit.
Absolutely. I mean, it's what we do best. It's what we do best. Can we have a massive round of applause as well for Lemmy as well? Good to see you back, buddy. How was the barbecue today? All well?
Yeah, all right. I still absolutely stink of it. I tried to have a 20-minute shower to try and get the smell of smoke off the skin, and I still
smell of it.
I still honk. So yeah, it's good to be back. Hopefully, when I've finished with the MLS of this summer, I'll be back more permanently. I can then get back to my residency back in the UK. So
good to see you. And a quick reminder from us, guys. If you do !FFTV, we're starting to build the foundations of some other stuff. Also, a lot of you are asking us about the barbecue, the summer barbecue. We are very slowly getting towards it. So it will be around probably the start of August, before the Premier League season starts.
Shall we just give them a heads up that potentially we're looking at, is it the 6th or 7th of August?
Yeah, around that time.
Yeah, so just pencil. I mean, because obviously that's the time of year that a lot of you guys will be going away. So I would just say just stick around for a couple more days, and let's see what we can do for you. But that's around the weekend that we're looking at. But definitely want to do something, and we've got a few ideas in mind. So if you guys have got any ideas as well, stick them in the community chat, and we'll have a look at what's available. But yeah, definitely want to do something before the start of the season, and on the build up to the season is probably going to be when we're looking at.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a barbecue. We might do a live one of these podcasts, but we'll get you guys involved. who come down and everything. So it'll just be a laugh. It'll be a complete laugh. But yeah, it'll be in Nottingham. So, you know, I know Bobby said he's going to fly over from America to come down to it. So Bobby will give you plenty of warning as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll keep you posted. We're just sorting out all the health and safety regulations and all that stuff. So we'll keep you posted. And a final reminder from me is to just hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you to all the guests. It's been a cracking stream. We'll be back tomorrow with the daily transfer news and hopefully some exciting links. Until then, have a good evening and come on, you Reds.
You Reds.